And good morning, everyone. As Anna has just said, I'm Jackie Marshall, and also, as Anna's just alluded to, I have obviously had roles in the food systems. And what has really struck me, both in my role at Fairtrade and also with my forthcoming role at Food Foundation, are three kind of really key important things. Firstly, the really serious nature of the cost of living crisis, Parisa was alluding to that a moment ago. Secondly, the serious health impact and health outcomes, which are really getting to quite a critical stage in this country. And thirdly, the really damaging effects of climate change. And so I have to say, I was delighted to meet Parisa because being concerned about all of those things myself, it was fantastic to meet somebody who is addressing those, not just in the food area, actually, but in all sorts of walks of life, and providing really sort of head-on approach to it, and giving practical and supportive advice. And also, which has really amazed me, was the passion and energy with which you've brought to this process. So I know you work incredibly hard on it. So firstly, thank you to everyone for joining us on this hot morning. I don't know if it's hot where you all are, but it's nice and sunny and hot here. Thank you for giving up time to give your thoughts and advice. And also, Parisa, I'd just like to welcome you to the Marketing Kind Coffee with the Cause session.
Thank you so much. It's really great to have this opportunity. Thank you, guys.
As I've said, really inspirational. I've loved meeting you, Parisa. It's an incredible and equally challenging journey you've been on. So perhaps you could just give a flavour for the group on what's the inspiration for you and what's behind you setting up Green and Cleaner in 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Parisa Wright. As you may be able to tell from my name, I have mixed heritage, Persian, Parisa, and English. And I've grown up in Southeast London, lived all over the place, including in Holland. And I've got a background of 20 years in mostly media and entertainment law, but I started off in human rights law doing cases at Strasbourg, and in fact with Keir Starmer 20 years ago, which was pretty cool. And he was actually very compassionate and very charismatic then, so fingers crossed. But basically, in 2018, I was at home on maternity leave with my youngest, and I was basically seeing a pattern on TV of young children having to put aside their childhood, essentially, to protest during the school climate strikes, and beg adults, beg government, beg their parents, beg society to actually take responsibility and do something about climate change and do something about high carbon lifestyles that were affecting their health and their sort of cost of living of their families now, but also obviously their futures. And so I looked at my kids. Me and my husband got very sad. We kind of had that moment where we were like, have we done the right thing having kids, given that they bring them into this world? It was too late, couldn't shove them back in. So we just decided we had to do something. And having had a background in problem solving and I love networking, bringing people together. I'm really passionate about inclusivity. And I looked around me and I felt like if people knew what they could do, if they knew the practical steps they could take, and they heard it from a trusted messenger rather than from a business or from government, that most people are happy to make that change, especially if they don't have to spend money on it. And so I went back to work at ITV on top of so I was at ITV for 11 years. On top of my business affairs role there, I started doing work around sustainability, and I became the production green team representative for business affairs. And then I became the project lead for the whole PLC's green team steering group across all the businesses. And I got involved in, sort of change, but also in training and talks and all that sort of stuff. And at the same time, I set up Greener and Cleaner as a small community group where we'd meet above a pub once a month, but we'd always make sure there was action. Every month there was some sort of event going on, and it was always free. It was always community focused in Southeast London, and it was about local people sharing their skills or their knowledge with other local people because they're the trusted messengers. And so we went from being a little community group to becoming a CIC. It grew on Facebook very quickly, and we did more and more events, and by the end of the year, we'd done the first climate hustings, we'd done the first Southeast London schools event with like 100, representatives of schools coming, and we raised £50,000 for a local school. And then, over time, we basically, over the pandemic, we did massive projects like sewing reusable, face masks and PPE and stuff for local hospitals and food banks. And we also basically did lots of workshops online and carried on. And then we ended up building up a relationship with a shopping centre. And just after we became a charity in October 2021, we opened up a community hub pilot. I feel like that's quite a quick rundown, but I feel like I should hand back to Jackie. So the community hub was like making use of a vacant shopping centre in Southeast London, and using my knowledge and skills and corporate background along with other volunteers who are professionals giving their time, kind of thing, on different areas.
Thanks, Christina. That's really helpful, and I think that helps to bring across a little bit of this relationship between what Greener and Cleaner are as the overarching kind of organisation, as it were, and then a community hub, which is this specific activity which is run in the Glades. So I don't know if people have had a chance to see the video that Anna shared, but hopefully some of you may have seen it. Hopefully it will give a feel for it. But if not, do you want to give a little few headlines, Chris, about things that specifically go on in the community hub and the purpose of that?
So the theory of change for the community hub, and in fact for the charity, is that government will do the bare minimum unless they think the voters want change. Businesses will do the bare minimum unless they think consumers want change. And at the moment, while over 70% of the population is worried about climate, most people either don't know where to start, are overwhelmed by all the information online and the misinformation, or are really either triggered by or blocked by all the myths and stereotypes out there around, sustainability is just for white middle class people, it's expensive, etc. And it was all very well being online and doing events in the community, but we were only meeting the same old people. And the environmental movement is the environmental sector is the second least ethnically diverse sector, sort of private practice wise. And in terms of a movement, it's got a massive problem with the lack of diversity in terms of the volunteers, in terms of beneficiaries, etc., people engaging. So we decided that by opening a community hub in the Glades where local people would teach each other how to sow, how to grow, and be 360 about sustainability. So someone can come and ask a question and get advice on any area of sustainability, but then we can also say to them, not only, if you want to reduce the carbon footprint of your wardrobe, go pre-loved and mend things. We will actually show them how to use a sewing machine. And we have the library of things there, so they can actually borrow the equipment they need to do their DIY or to mend things or to do gardening things. And we also have in the hub itself equipment every day that people can just come in, sit down, use the sewing machine, and every day someone will come in and use it. But what we've learned over the last 2 years is people aren't just coming in for the advice, they're not just coming in for the workshops for kids or for adults, they're not just coming in for the social events, they're not just coming in for the equipment, they're also coming in for loneliness, they're also coming in to reduce their cost of living, they're also coming in because they've got mental health vulnerabilities or physical health vulnerabilities that actually engaging with that space and also some of the knowledge and activities out of it really helps them with. So it's really very much a community hub that is making use of a vacant unit of a shopping centre. And for me, I gave up my career 2.5 years ago to work on this full time, pretty much 99% pro bono, because I believe that actually this is what the UK needs. We need to transform the way the British public connects with climate and sustainability, particularly post the last year of Conservatives saying, oh, it's an attack on humans, etc., or the poorest, which it isn't. And we need people to understand that actually it's just looking at your heritage and life skills and getting engaged with those things, waste less, spend less. So it's in the heart of a shopping centre, which already brings in diverse groups in terms of the elderly, in terms of parents of under 3-year-olds, in terms of adults learning difficulties, in terms of teenagers. But also it's a mainstream setting that everyone comes to on the weekend. And that's what you want, somewhere that is a popular shopping centre, that is aspirational, that draws people from all the different communities, and normalizing and popularizing sustainability by being in that space. So even if it's the nudge effect of people going past, we have over 1,000 people every month coming into the space. And that doesn't include the school trips, that every time a school trip comes in, it's a minimum of 30 kids and then another 10, or 5 adults kind of thing. And we do a hub and spokes model. So it's in the hub, and we do pop-up events out in the community, in schools, in food banks, in hospitals, at fairs, all that sort of thing. And we do pop-up projects as well. So that kind of gives you a sense, every year it's about 200 workshops. It's about 4 free events a week, and it's open 5 days a week. And on top of that, we'll do additional events, like we're putting on a play this weekend with amazing actor Paul Reedy from Motherland, or we'll put in a Christmas fair weekend. We had 2,000 people coming over 2 days into the community hub during the Christmas fair weekend, where it was called Greener Christmas. And then, we do a lot of work with other local businesses to help them, and also bigger businesses in terms of the corporate offering that we're going to talk about. And we also do a few premium events where people, either they're one-off events or they're workshops where people will pay a bit, and that helps, fund the free activities, because we want it to be free in the hub or very, very cheap, £3, £5. So that kind of gives you a sense. And as I said, it's very much about 360 around sustainability, and 360 highlighting the co-benefits. And sometimes we will lead with the co-benefits. So we'll talk about, getting back to our heritage of sowing and growing and pickling, or we'll talk about the life skills or the employability that comes from volunteering with us or doing our carbon literacy training, etc., that we offer. So it's very much 360 in terms of what that space is. It's very much community focused. We can flex. So we've supported refugees, we've supported asylum seekers, we work with people with learning difficulties. We collaborate with lots of different charities across South East London that represent marginalised and vulnerable communities, because they are the most important to engage. So that kind of gives you a sense. And, our Facebook following is about 7,500 people. It's mostly, it's very much Bromley, Lewisham, Croydon, Greenwich people, and a few others. But we also have an active Instagram and website, which is quite useful. Our website, people can go in if they're a business or if they're an individual, or if they're a school, and get a bit more sort of support. And about, we know that the people who are coming in and using the space wonderfully are more diverse in terms of socioeconomics, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of age, in terms of mental health and physical health vulnerabilities than the borough that this community hub is based in. So our efforts to be located in a space, so we chose a site in a popular shopping centre near the toilets, because actually a lot of those vulnerable people need to be near toilets, and near a McDonald's, because actually, why are McDonald's choosing to be next to bus stops? Because they are pitching themselves at certain socioeconomic groups and certain age groups. And so we want to make sure that we are also capturing those people and not just the usual suspects. So from being online and doing events to being in the shopping centre, in this popular shopping centre, in this prominent unit, and our outreach and collaboration and co-design with different groups, community leaders and charities representing marginalised communities, we really transformed the sort of diversity of our volunteers and the diversity of the people who are engaging and benefiting from this amazing community space. And let's remember, we've lost cashiers on the tills, we've lost our youth centres, we've lost our community centres. These have all been closed down due to budget saving. So it is more important than ever that we leverage vacant units in shopping centres and in high streets. And, I really believe that, we in our first year, we got a massive amount of funding, seed funding from BAYS, from the Net Zero team at government, because they believe in our vision that this is what we should be doing with vacant units of shopping centres all over the UK. And they loved the fact that it was 360 and not siloed around just air pollution or just veganism or just circular economy. And, they also like the fact that we want to open up that blueprint to transition town networks and climate emergency centre networks and repair cafes and community garden allotments, because all of those people are doing great work. But with my sort of business affairs legal head on, I've gone and had conversations with them all and said, what are your major blockers? What means that your groups across the country are burning out or closing down or not meeting the right people? And we've identified those blockers as the balance between staffing and volunteers, a lack of diversity of all kinds in terms of the beneficiaries and the volunteers, and also a lack of diversification of funding streams. So this sort of like conversation today feeds into that element, basically. And while, our hub is going to be more expensive because we're doing a lot of testing around those blockers, around and also around other issues that need to be in the blueprint. We're hoping that we can get it to a model where people can negotiate to get the space for free for all the reasons that we will set out. People can negotiate their rates to be free, but for the staffing of it, we can get that down. Staffing and other costs, which there obviously are of running a unit like that and those events that regularly, 5 days a week, you know, we can get it down to 100, 150K a year. Whereas at the moment, our costs are about 270K a year. And at the moment, we're testing out 170K skeleton budget, but that is not, you know, very sustainable or healthy kind of thing with all the testing we're trying to do. So we're trying to get it down to sort of streamline it down to something that will be more affordable for people to fundraise for. But also we're trying to test different ways of bringing in funding that could either cover all of it or 80% of it, so that ultimately people aren't reliant on trusts and foundations when we have 100 of these across the UK, and it's all the blueprints also supporting other models, because we have no ego. We don't care, like when it's set up elsewhere, it's not going to be called greener and cleaner, it's going to be called the whatever Birmingham Wanderers, you know, community hub or whatever it is. But the idea is that we can, you know, you guys can help us and we can help other people through this blueprint have a sustainable, a humanly sustainable and a financially sustainable model that really empowers communities in a big way. And while not using the word climate or sustainability in the title, often not using that in conversations or even events sometimes, it is creating an appetite, it is recreating the appetite for government and for business to deal with sustainability and climate in the ways it needs to do. So I was mentioning, I think to Paul earlier, that I would love to speak to the Labour Party at some point, because I think these community hubs are spaces that address a massive need around levelling up and well-being, but also have the co-benefits, obviously, around normalising sustainability and you know, bringing generations and cultures together to collaborate and share skills.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing, Chris. And as I have said on many occasions, I feel ultimately inspired and in awe of you every time we have a conversation. And yet again, you've blown me away with even more facts that we haven't covered yet. So thank you. I hope that's given everyone a really good flavour for the work Chris is doing.